I think you guys will all be blessed. I think you'll be able to learn some stuff and maybe have some things confirmed to you that you had thought, and maybe I'll share something that makes sense. For those that just joined up in the nest, I have the number for the United States National
We are
Suicide
going live right now.
Prevention. Okay, well, I welcome everybody from around the world, and regardless of the time, I thank you for joining the space. Uh, Today, I have as two guest hosts, Chris and Tanya. They will open up the microphones at the end of when I complete the topic for questions, comments, or some understanding. Perhaps you people know some stuff. Now I'm going to use the web MD and I'm going to read off what they say, and then I'm going to go into the Mayo Clinic. And again, this is about mental illness, mental health, and mental health awareness. As you know, this is officially the Mental Health Awareness Month, the whole month of October, but that doesn't mean we have to stop there in October because mental illness goes every single day. Causes of mental illness. What are the causes of mental illness? Although the exact cause of mental illness is not known, it is becoming clear through research that many of these conditions are caused by a combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. What biological factors are involved in mental illness? Some mental illnesses have been linked to abnormal functioning of nerve cell circuits or pathways that connect particular brain regions. Nerve cells within the brain circuits communicate through chemicals called neurotransmitters. Tweaking these chemicals through medicines, psychotherapy, or other medical procedures can help brain circuits run more efficiently. In addition, defects in procedures defects in or an injury to certain areas of the brain have also been linked to some mental conditions. Other biological factors that may be involved in the development of mental illness include genetics or heredity. Mental illness sometimes runs in families, suggesting that people who have a family member with a mental illness may be somewhat more likely to develop one themselves. Um, so, um, I'm sorry. Suspiciously, it is passed on in families through genes. That's different. Experts believe many mental illness are linked to abnormalities in many genes rather than just one or a few, and that is how the genes interact with the environment is unique for every person, even identical twins. That is why a person inherits a susceptibility to mental illness and doesn't necessarily develop the illness. Mental illness itself occurs from the interaction of multiple genes and other factors, such as stress, abuse, or a traumatic event, which can influence or trigger an illness in a person who has an inherent uh, susceptibility to it. Infections. Certain infections have been linked to brain damage and development of mental illness or the worsening of its symptoms. For example, a condition known as pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder, a condition known as pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder, all or PANDAS, PANDAS, associated with the Streptococcus bacteria and has been linked to the development of obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD, the other mental illnesses in children, brain defects or injury. Defects in or injury to certain areas of the brain have also been linked to some mental illnesses. Parental damage. Some evidence suggests that a disruptive of early fetal brain development or trauma that occurs at the time of birth, for example, loss of oxygen in the brain, may be a factor in the development of certain conditions such as autism spectrum disorder. Also, we have substance abuse. Long-term substance abuse, in particular, has been linked to anxiety, depression, and paranoia. Other factors: poor nutrition and exposure to toxins such as lead may play a role in the development of mental illnesses. What psychological factors contribute to mental illness? Psychological factors that may contribute to mental illness include severe psychological trauma suffered as a child, such as emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. An important early loss, such as the loss of a parent, neglect, poor ability to relate to others. Certain stresses can trigger illnesses in a person who is susceptible to mental illness. The stresses include death or divorce, a dysfunctional family life, feelings of inadequacy, low self esteem, anxiety, anger, loneliness, changing jobs or schools, social or cultural experience. For example, a society that associates beauty with thinness can be a factor in the developing of eating disorders, substance abuse by the person's parents. And now I want to just touch a little more on mental illness that's by the um, Mayo Clinic. Mental illness, also called mental health disorders, refer to a wide range of mental health conditions. Disorders that affect your mood, thinking behavior. Examples of mental illness include depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors to drugs and alcohol, for example. Many people have mental health concerns from time to time, but a mental health concern becomes a mental illness when ongoing signs and symptoms cause frequent stress and affect your ability to function. A mental illness can make you miserable and can cause problems in your daily life, such as at school or work or in a relationship. In most cases, symptoms can be managed with a combination of medications and talk therapy, also known as psychotherapy. Symptoms. Signs and symptoms of mental illness can vary depending upon the disorder, circumstances, and other factors. Mental health symptoms can affect emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Example of signs and symptoms include feeling sad and down. By the way, if you have a pen and paper, you may want to take notes if this is applicable to you, or if you have questions or comments later on when we open up the mics so that you remember. So feeling sad or down, confused thinking or reduced ability to concentrate. Effectiveness, excessive fears or worries, or extreme feelings of guilt, extreme mood changes or highs and lows, withdrawal from friends and activities, significant tiredness, low energy, or problems sleeping, detachment from reality, the delusional, paranoia, or hallucinations, inability to cope with daily problems or stress, trouble understanding and relating to situations and to people, problems with alcohol or drug use, major changes in eating habits, sex drive changes. Sometimes symptoms of a mental health disorder appear as physical problems such as stomach pain, back pain, headaches, or other unexplained aches and pains. When to see a doctor? If you have any signs or symptoms of mental illness, see your primary care provider or a mental health professional. Most mental uh, illnesses don't improve on their own. And if untreated, a mental illness may get worse over time and cause serious problems. If you have suicidal thoughts and behavior are common with some mental illnesses. If you think you may hurt yourself or attempt suicide, get help right away. Call 911 or your local emergency number immediately. Call your mental health specialist. And this I have, what I'm going to say now, I have up in the nest as well. Call a suicide hotline number. In the United States, call the National Suicide Prevention Line at 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. Or use it as a web chat, excuse me, or suicide prevention lifeline.org/chat. Seek help from your primary care provider. Reach out to a close friend or loved one. Contact a minister, spiritual leader, or someone else in your faith community. Suicide thinking doesn't get better on its own, so get help. Excuse me, helping loved ones. If your loved one shows signs of mental illness, have an open and honest discussion with him or her about your concerns. You may not be able to force somebody to get professional care, but you can offer encouragement and support. You can also help your loved ones find qualified mental health professionals and make an appointment. You may even be able to go along to the appointment. If your loved one has done self harm or is considering doing so, take the person to the hospital or call for emergency help. Causes: mental illness in general are thought to be caused by a variety of genetic and environmental factors, inherited traits. Mental illness is more common in people. We see your request, but we're doing the request at the end of when I'm done talking. Mental illness is more common in people whose blood relatives also have mental illnesses. Certain genes may increase your risk of developing a mental illness. Your life situation may trigger it. Environmental exposures before birth, for example, exposures to environmental stressors, inflammatory conditions, toxins, alcohol, or drugs while in the womb can sometimes be linked to mental illness. Brain chemistry. Neurotransmitters are naturally occurring brain chemicals that carry signals to other parts of your brain and body. When the neural networks involving these chemicals are impaired, the function of nerve receptors and nerve systems change, leading to depression and other emotional disorders. Risk factors. Certain factors may increase your risk of developing a mental illness, including a history of mental illness in a blood relative, such as a parent or sibling, stressful life situations, such as financial problems, a loved one's death or divorce, an ongoing chronic medical condition, such as diabetes, brain damage as a result of a serious injury, traumatic brain injury, such as a violent blow to the head, like if you were in an accident, traumatic experiences such as military combat or assault, use of alcohol or recreational drugs, a childhood history of abuse or neglect or sexual abuse, few signs or few healthy relationships, few friends or few healthy relationships, a previous mental illness. Mental illness is common. About 1 in 5 adults has a mental illness in any given year. Mental illness can begin at any age, from childhood through later adult years, but most cases begin earlier in life. The effects of mental illness can be temporary or long lasting. You also can have more than one mental health disorder at the same time. For example, you may have depression and a substance use disorder. Complications. Mental health is a leading cause of disability. Untreated mental health can cause severe emotional, behavioral, and physical health problems. Complications sometimes linked to mental health illnesses include unhappiness and decreased enjoyment of life, family conflicts, relationship difficulties, social isolation, problems with tobacco, alcohol, or other drugs, missed work or school, or other problems related to work or school, legal and financial problems, poverty and homelessness, self-harm and harm to others, including suicide or homicide, weakened immune system, so your body has a hard time resisting infections, heart disease and other medical conditions. Preventions. There is no sure way to prevent mental illness. However, if you have a mental illness, taking steps to control stress, to increase your reliance, and to boost low self-esteem may help keep your symptoms under control. Follow these steps. Pay attention to warning signs. Work with your doctor or therapist to learn what might trigger your symptoms. Make a plan so that you know what to do if symptoms return. Contact your doctor or therapist if you notice any changes in symptoms or how you feel. Consider involving family members or friends to watch for warnings. Get routine medical care. Don't neglect checkups or skip visits to your primary care provider, especially if you aren't feeling well. You may have a new health problem that needs to be treated, or You may be experiencing side effects of medication. Get help when you need it. Mental health conditions can be harder to treat if you wait until symptoms get bad. Long term maintenance. Treatment also may help prevent a relapse of symptoms. Take good care of yourself. Sufficient sleep, healthy eating, and regular physical activity are important. Try to maintain a regular schedule. Talk to your primary care provider if you have trouble sleeping or if you have questions about diet and physical activity. And I just have, I think, just one more. I think, unless. mm, um, okay. You know what? I'm going to stop there. You know, the last couple of times that we've done this, we've talked about bipolar. We've talked about sexual abuse, people who have had, sadly to say, uncles raping them. That had been discussed, and not the other night, but the first time I did it. So people are starting to understand what is mental illness, and you know what? Mental illness is no different than any other illness. It's treatable. For example, one of the things that the psychiatric department would tell you, or the American Psychiatric Journal says that it's just like it's no different than if you had a heart disease or you had diabetes. It's an illness. So I say that to try to remove the stigma that some people may have if you have a mental illness. I have a mental illness. It's depression and PTSD. And we've discussed this in the past, but I just need one pill and I'm fine. I no longer get depressed. Now, before I open it up to the room, I'm going to go ladies and then gentlemen for my two co-hosts. I'm going to start with Sonia and then Chris if they have anything to add. But Tanya, if you could also interject the importance of checking your hormones because I really believe that that's an important step. Yes, you go to the psychologist, the psychiatrist, or your social worker. All of that is vital. I have no problem with that. These are things you should do. But Tanya works with these doctors that can check whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter. So that if your hormones are off, it can get treated. So with that, Tanya, if you could take over and explain
Yeah,
to.
I'd love to. So hormones are like the key to everything. If you really think about it, I mean, when people think about hormones, it's such a painted such a negative thing, but that's our key to our life, our longevity. So when we're young, we have tons of it. You know, we're very vibrant, easygoing. But as you get older, and everybody has a different timing, different times, certain things can trigger something. But no one's ever thought like hormones and mental illness and trauma play such an important role. Like if it wasn't, so I talked to a lot of doctors. I've been in this industry since 2002. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a healthcare practitioner, but I'm the communication consultant. So I create the brand or to help my clients come up with a message. If they have a book, they have a new product, or anything that helps them create their awareness without coming across cheesy in a sense. But I'm all about data, and I'm blessed to a point that I get to pick the client that I work with, and it tend to be more about how well I work with them and if we have the same philosophy. So my philosophy, the doctors I work with are regenerative functional medicine doctor who utilizes integrative therapies. So it would mean that we're not like, we're not holistic, where we don't believe in pharmaceutical. We believe in every aspect. But the most important thing is got to find out the reason why. And I think we have a doctor in this space also. So when we get a chance, I'd love to bring him in. But I think Jason's here too. So I'll just look down. I saw Jason. So let me get my frame of thought. I saw Jason, so I got flushed because he always has these really smart, intelligent doctors in his space. So with my doctor, so when I got into the industry, I myself was going through some changes in my life, and I kind of like stumbled into anti-aging medicine. And my first job was working at a compounding pharmacy, and it never dawned on me that my car accident made such a big deal to me because I had gotten. I'm actually a makeup artist by trade, but then I got in a bad accident. So I didn't dawn on me that my hormones would be affected from this trauma, from this car accident that would trigger a lot of different things. Didn't even know it. But then I couldn't really hold a brush anymore. So I got better, but then I got a job working at a compounding pharmacy. So in this compounding pharmacy, I met a lot of doctors and we talked about a lot of things. So one of my really good friend is Dr. Mark Gordon. And he's been on Joe Rogan and he's written all over. If you Google his name, Dr. Mark Gordon, he is the traumatic brain injury doctor. He's the doctor who's talking about, and he's the first doctor talking about testosterone therapy besides my good friend, Dr. John Chrysler. God bless his soul. He's gone, but um, Dr. Mark Gordon goes and travel all over the world globally and talk about hormones and how it plays. So he went become an endoneurologist. That's what he is. So he told me that the effects of different things happen to you creates certain things like hormones gets turned on. So there's a hormone, and I still didn't get. I promised myself to get the exact pronunciation to it because it's something most people don't talk about, and we'll have to have Mark Gordon come back in. I'll have him come on your show. But he will tell you that when you have traumatic brain injury or any type of trauma as a child, your body will always remember. And so as you get older, something bad will happen to you. That same trigger would trigger the same process that happened to you as a child. But every time it happens, your body is older, so you have a different way of dealing with it. So he believes that there's this hormone that he proved that he goes and talk about. They did a whole clinical study that dumps into the body. And besides cortisol, we talk about cortisol, the stress hormone that does all kind of stuff. So his thoughts when it comes to mental illness is the first thing most patients should get done is find out the reason why. Like, besides they have trauma, but also find out what's the physical part. Because I always use this analogy. If you have a car leaking gas, do you continue driving around and pour gas in your car as you go? No, you would find out where the gas is having a leak and you fix it, right? Same thing when it comes to your hormones. And everybody has nobody has the same. Everyone's different. So you got to find a doctor that understands it and like has been doing it for a while. But hormones does play effect on someone's mental health. And if someone that's not out, they're not doing around, they're not being around anyone. Vitamin D is a pro hormone. Actually, vitamin D in itself makes somebody really happy if they are supplemented. So, I mean, those are little things. I'm not a doctor. I work with a whole bunch of them. I just happen to be in this industry for so long. Hi, Jason.
Okay, before Jason comes up, I'd like to see if Chris wants to say something, and then and then GOP, she has her hand up, and then we'll bring the doctor up so that he can share whatever it is that he'd like to share. But I'd also like you to all to know if you have a pen or paper, like I said, up in the nest is the National Suicide Hotline at 888-628-9454. That's it for the Spanish. And Espanola, 1-888-628-9454. English, it would be 1-800-273-TALK, TALK, which comes out to 8255. If you wanted the crisis text line, text the word hello, HELLO, to 741741. Again, for the crisis text line, text hello, HELLO, to 741741. Go ahead, Chris, and then GOP, and then the doctor.
Oh, can I add one more thing now?
Yeah.
I always feel if you go to your doctor and you don't feel right and you're having some, like, you don't feel balanced, you just feel irritable, you feel happy moment, sad 1 minute, I would totally have your psychiatrist can get they're all getting trained on this. So get your hormones checked. Men have different panels, women have different panels. So just make sure they give you the right panels, and you should be covered by your insurance also. If it doesn't, you can go to lifeextension.com and you can get it ordered right there online and go to a LabCorp and get your blood work done.
Thank you, Tanya. Go ahead, Chris, and then GOP, and then the doctor.
Let's go to Brandy. Welcome to the space.
Go ahead, GOP.
Thank you. I just want to completely agree with Tanya. I noticed that when I was at the height of my anxiety panic disorder, anytime I was about to start my menstrual cycle, like, a few days before, I'd get into a heightened state of anxiety. So, and I was like, okay, I had to become cognitive of that. I had to become aware of my own body. And one of the things that really helped me through that was exercise. To be honest with you, that was like kind of my saving grace. And taking time to go outside and just, you know, be at peace with nature, maybe read a book or get a little sun, love vitamin D. But, I went through my original breakdown with anxiety panic disorder right after I had my second son. It was just like a collapse in my mind, and I thought I was going insane. So thank God I got help, but everyone needs to know there is hope. And thank you for this space.
So did you suffer postpartum depression?
I had a placenta abruption, and my son, was in the NICU for 2.5 months. So, yeah, I would imagine I went through. My body
Oh,
was.
you had major trauma. I'm glad things worked out as far as. And your son's great now.
Oh, he's fine. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's a chef. He's doing great things, and he's very creative, also in photography. So, I'm very blessed in that realm. But it
Can I
was.
share something with you? I suffer from I suffer from postpartum depression. I already had post traumatic stress disorder already. And then when I went 13 hours telling the doctor I can feel every single thing right now, and you're telling me you're giving me pain medicine, I'm screaming at them. They didn't believe me, and I was in pure pain. And after when my son came and he came out at me and all this stuff, I went through a stage in my time that I wasn't even myself. It took me 10 years. It wasn't like boom, I went, dude, I'm fine again. No, I didn't even realize I was suffering until years and years later. So I'm just letting you know you went through some trauma in your body.
I know, and that's the whole thing. And I think that was kind of like not really until I actually went to a therapist who had worked with PTSD individuals. He acknowledged, guess what? You have some PTSD going on. And I understand how you feel, and it was wonderful exploring those times. But yeah, I was only 28 weeks in term when the abruption happened, and back then the technology was good, but it was still not what it is today. So
Lucky.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the story. It's brave of you to do, and I'm glad that your son is okay now, and that you're still on the mends, from what I'm gathering. And Tanya, the same thing. I mean, after birth, I know that when I was married with Kathy, sometimes the hormones take a while to reset after birth, which is something you ladies know all about. And sometimes it can get worse, like in Tanya's situation, because of certain reasons. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Chris. If he wants to say something, he can, and then we're going to go to the doctor. Go ahead, Chris, if you have anything.
No, I'm okay. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, Tanya, could you please bring the doctor up?
Here.
Is he here?
I think he left. Yeah, he left because I just saw him.
Well, if you want to text him and ask him if he'd like to come back, I'll yield the floor to him.
Oh no, I don't know him.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, I just happened to notice his profile.
Oh, she could have been a doctor or anything. So in any
Yes.
case, in any case, what we had discussed, Tanya and Chris was with me last night, co-hosting, or the night before, I should say. We had gone over the different things of what they meant. Post-traumatic stress disorder can occur, like had been said. And by the way, I'm not a doctor either. I'm not a lay person. And as I said, I was reading articles that I printed off of the internet that was from WebMD as well as from the Mayo Clinic. So they get the credit, not me. I'm just a mouthpiece reiterating words on a paper. And then we have the discussion as you're hearing now. I'm not an expert. I'm no different than you. So if anybody else would like to make a comment,
Yeah, I would.
go right ahead, Tanya.
So I feel like, this is the kind of space where none of I was hoping we'd have a doctor, but we'll bring a doctor our next round. But we're all here to share with each other and our story. And what stressed you out or what triggered you at 25 is total different from at 55, right? So different things causes different stressor. And as you get older, and age is only a number, it's all in how you travel, right? Like, say, do you want to get older, travel older toward your years, being uncomfortable and being afraid of things that makes you who you are, and instead of accepting you, or do you accept yourself and work your way through it? And because that's what happens as you get older, you get wiser. And if you don't find it, then maybe in the next life you will. But what I was raised to believe in, that everything is as an education. And so when we have mental illness, when we're not feeling right, I think the most important thing to all of us need to embrace, I feel, this is my personal belief, is to forgive ourselves. No one's forgive ourselves. It is something that I took me for a long time to learn how to do this, to say forgive myself. Like I got mad at myself because I should have went to, when I gave birth to my son, I was like, I was working so much that I just thought if I read the book, I can just give birth, right? I didn't need to go to Lamaze or anything, like, it's my first child. I thought I could just read it and understand it. And I just remember going this long, hard labor for 13 hours thinking, God, why did I do that? Why didn't I didn't forgive myself? And I was like 26, 27 years old back then. But now I'm older and I experienced so much and so much failure and so much positive, so much negative, a lot of my friends passing away suddenly because they can't deal with mental illness or they didn't tell me. And I go through a stage, for like 5 years straight. I had someone I knew passed away they killed themselves, and it would break my heart every year. And I would, for a while there, I thought it was me. Maybe did I miss something? Did I not see that? Did I notice that? Because, I'm so busy helping everyone out. Why am I not paying attention to my circle of friends? So I just told myself, you can't be everyone's pillar, because when you're everybody's pillar, it's very lonely. And when the plane goes down, you need to put that oxygen mask on yourself first, because if you don't, the plane won't make it. So I feel that, I can't be everyone's pillar, and I need to learn to forgive myself for my failure and embrace my failure and love my freedom. Because I think the moment that you get over your failure, there's a freedom feeling. And when you're free, great things happen. I'm going with the F word for some unknown reason. And that fear, I don't know, the self-fear, self-doubt. I don't know about you guys, but I used to have a lot of it. And now I'm kind of like, And I tell myself, if I go do this, it's nothing great's going to happen. You know what? I tell myself now, it's like, you know what? I got up and I did it. It's something I can say I did, right? So that's the thing. I feel like in mental illness, especially Mental Health Awareness Month, I think we all need to say it's okay. Everything is okay. And you know what? The problem with society is they tell us we have to be happy to say that we're good, right? You have to be happy. Why can't we just be content? Why do we have to be happy? Happy is such a fake concept. And that's what my thought when it comes to mental illness and mental health, because I feel like people are like brainwashed to believe you got to be happy. If you're not happy, something wrong with you. It's kind of like I feel, why can't I be okay? Why can't I just be content? I'm doing what I love. I forgive myself. I'm surrounded with positive people. I'm learning something. So there's the thing I think about all the time. So when I feel bad about something and I feel down on myself, and I with a trigger, I mean, I fought my mental illness or my mental health, where I don't know what you want to call it. I've experienced so much, but I think all my triggers have always been on my own self-doubt, my fear of failure, and my fear of missing out of something. And anytime that I see someone that's having a tough time, I have that conversation with them, because really the only thing you can fear about is you not doing something. So those are my thoughts. Breezy is here. I'd love to hear her thoughts too, because she helps a lot of people also. And Q, you should pop up too. And Charles is like my new friend.
Come on up, guys. You can speak. The co-host will let you up, and while you're coming, I hope you'll come up. Tanya, thank you for sharing your story. It was very brave of you to do. Each time you share, you're able to share a little bit more and more and more about your personal life and what you're going through, and that takes a lot of courage. As far as I'm concerned, in the room, that people that know you, we love you, we care about you. You're a good woman. You have a heart of gold, and you're always trying to help people. I think that if we learned how to talk to each other in psalms and hymns, as the Bible would say, I think we'd get along a lot better. This backbiting, the bickering back and forth, the toxic environments that we place ourselves in. I went onto a space, I heard all the swearing and all this. I mean, I'm not perfect. I've done that same thing, but it was just more too kiddish for me, like being a little kid. So I left that room. I don't want that toxicity. So your environment plays a role. And I want you to know that if you do have a mental illness, it's not your fault. There's nothing that you did to deserve it. Okay. And I agree with Tanya 100%. You need to forgive yourself. And most importantly, you need to love yourself. You're created, I don't know if you're religious, but I am a little bit. The way I look at it, you're all created in the image of God. And he made you fearfully and wonderfully. And he loves you. You're the apple of his eye. That's from a religious standpoint. Now, just as a human being, I think that and I've said this in the spaces before, we all come from the same cesspool, meaning the world. And I think spaces like this are great because those of us who have mental illness, and even those that don't, creating a safe space to be able to discuss it among ourselves is great. There's a time under heaven for everything, and that includes seeking the professional help from whether it be a minister, a pastor, a psychologist, social worker, psychiatrist, your primary care physician. Please get the help. You're only helping yourself, and that's the best thing to do. Now, something, words hurt. Words create imagery. And if you were a child and your parents or your siblings were ganging up on you, they may have meant their words as a joke, but sometimes it's harsh. And if you're a sensitive person, it can have a traumatic impact on you emotionally, especially if you don't have the courage at the time because you're so little to tell your older brother or sister or parents, I don't like the way you're teasing me. This carries over to adulthood. Now, yes, we all mature as we get older, or at least we should be. Some stay little boys and little girls inside of an adult body, and that's a shame. So whether you have bipolar, whether you are schizophrenic, whether you have PTSD, whether you have a food disorder, whether you are bulimic, there is help for you. But you have to want the help. It's kind of like the old adage, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink it. These kinds of rooms and the things that Tanya and others have shared are examples so that you know that we go through these same things that you do, that we're all human. Now, I may suffer from depression and you major depression, and you may have bipolar, and there's a difference between the two. So, I mean, an illness is an illness. It's like a cold; it goes away. But with mental illness, you need to see a doctor so it doesn't get worse. And like Tanya shared, get your hormones checked, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. It really doesn't matter. This is about your health, your mental well-being. Your head is very much part of your body, your brain, as any other part. So if they treat you on your physical, on your legs, on your heart, whatever, let them treat you in the brain. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. There's 1 out of 2 people suffer from it. So don't worry about it. Okay, I've talked long enough. I'm going to go to Barisa. I think that's your name. And then to Q.
Hi, Michael. I think we've spoken before in Ariel's places, and excuse my Boston Terrier just terrorizing in the background, but that is like his time right now to play, and I'm like trying to give him attention and pay attention on the phone, and he's like, "Hey guys, like priorities here." But gosh, echo to what everybody's talking about. Tanya, wow, you touched on so many things that like I really felt, and you too, Michael. It's just reminding me of the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. If you're not familiar with that book, I highly recommend you get into it. There's actually a passage in it where he says there's a little girl who likes to sing. She's singing her heart out. Her mother comes home from work, is having a bad day, and she turns to her daughter and says, stop singing, it's too loud, I don't want to hear it, you're bothering me." And that little girl stopped singing at that age because she realized that her mother is bothered by her voice, and she internalizes that. And that little girl grows up into an adult who now doesn't feel comfortable singing in public places. And that, unfortunately, is the reality for a lot of people. They experience that young, where where their parents or siblings or teachers or whoever are like, you're not going to make it. You need to just buckle down and do this instead. You cannot, pursue that or whatever, because somebody told them that they cannot pursue it, and they're perpetuating that cycle. And it is so hard to break that cycle. And it's also really hard not to take it personally when you are an empath and you are aware of your friends, to think, wow, what else could I have done? What could I have not have done sooner? It's so um heartbreaking to think that, but then you have to forgive yourself and them and say, hey, you know what? Maybe they're at peace. Maybe they're at a better place or at a better peace than what they could have been here. And I think about that a lot with Robin Williams. Robin Williams was a genius in so many levels, not just acting, but comedic. And to be a comedian, you have to be able to have extreme pain, extreme darkness to be able to make other people laugh. And the fact that he knew whatever dementia he had was too much for him, he took his own life so that he didn't have to continue to suffer. And I respect people for taking that decision. But men are more likely to commit suicide than women are, because men are not allowed to articulate and talk about their feelings as freely, or it's not socially as acceptable as it is for women. So that these are all things that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about mental health with men in general, is that it's not easy for them to even talk about or accept, let alone admit that they need. And one last point is, like, we got to talk about the privilege of being able to pay for our own tests, because I have gotten my levels done, and guess what? My insurance won't cover it for a lot of the type of testing that I need to get to know what's really going on with my body. I have two doctors. I have a general practitioner and I have a holistic doctor. And I'm going to tell you right now, my holistic doctor has helped me so much further and farther than my than my GP doctor could ever do, by getting my levels right, by checking my cortisol, by seeing what's going on with my hormones, and I need vitamin D or whatever it is, that I would never know from a general practitioner. So that's a privilege to be able to afford the medical care to do those tests, and being able to say that I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I deserve it. I need to allot money aside to be able to have this baseline, to know that me at this age, this is where I'm at, so that in the future, I can know if something's funky or something's weird. Okay, this is where I was 2 years ago. Where am I at now? What's different? What's going on? So I just hope everybody can have that. So that's a lot to say. And I see we have hands up. So Q&A.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that information. I just want to go over three things really quick, and then we'll get to Q and then to Justin. OCD was mentioned tonight as I was sharing the article. For those that don't know what it is, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD causes consistent and repetitive thoughts or obsessions. These thoughts happen with unnecessary and unreasonable desires to carry out certain behaviors or compulsions. Many people with OCD realize that their thoughts and actions are unreasonable, yet they cannot stop them. More than 2% of Americans are diagnosed with OCD at some point in their life. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which has also been brought up tonight. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental illness that is triggered after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event, I would guess like a very bad car accident where somebody had their head decapitated would be a heck of a trauma to have to see. Experiences that cause PTSD can range from extreme events like war and natural disasters to verbal or physical abuse. Symptoms of PTSD may include flashbacks or being easily startled. It's estimated that 3.5% of American adults experience PTSD. And then lastly, schizophrenia, which is different than schizotypical. Like I explained the other day, schizotypical is somebody that's extremely paranoid. They're constantly thinking that other people are talking about him or her. Schizophrenia, on the other hand, impairs a person's perception of reality and the world around them. It interferes with their connection to other people. It's a serious condition that needs treatment. They might experience hallucinations, have delusions, and hear voices. These can potentially put them in dangerous situation if left untreated. It's estimated that 1% of the American population experiences social anxiety disorder, sometimes called social phobia, causes an extreme fear of social situations. People with social anxiety may become very nervous about being around other people. They may feel like they're being judged. This can make it hard to meet new people and attend social gatherings. Approximately 15 million adults in the United States experience social anxiety each year. And that came from the interim.inc that I just read that from. Okay, so now we know what that is. It will be Q and then Justin. And if anybody else wants to comment or share, please tap your microphone to request it. And either Chris, Tanya, or myself will bring you up.
Thanks a lot, Michael, and I really appreciate you setting up this space. I do think we need to talk about it even more. Really, really grateful for that. I wanted to touch upon a couple of points. So the first thing I wanted to say was that I come from a third world country, as you all know, and I'm really grateful to be here in United States now. I'm a first generation immigrant, and a lot of trauma comes with that experience as well, because you grow up in a country like we have a lot of privilege here, and mental health is just not like something for which we even have any resources, because people struggle for basic health care. So um, I never had the opportunity growing up to even consider these things, and now as an adult, a high functioning adult with a lot of mental health issues, I came here and I started to seek out. I mean, you can work on yourself. It's all about continuous improvement, and you could always at any age you could reach out. There's so many resources out there, and now in the online world, I mean, you can find a therapist which is online, right? So I've been in recovery for a few years now, and after that, I mean, it was a great experience. But after that, you do need a lot of help, and I didn't expect that. So definitely, there are doctors out there, there are therapists out there. One should reach out to them, and sometimes your even a very good doctor might not be the right one for you. So I do suggest that always look at what's working for you, and if it's not working, move on and find more resources. Don't get hung up on the fact that okay, maybe something's wrong with me. I used to do that a lot, that I have to try harder. Something's wrong with me. I need to try harder. And that's just no, bullshit. You have to reach out, and it's all about your health, right? And I do believe that mental health is such an important thing that it impacts your physical health. I mean, if you're not feeling well emotionally, it just starts to manifest in so many other diseases. So it's of prime importance, and if there is any resources, any opportunities out there, you should go and look for it. And I just feel if anyone needs help in about the recovery journey, I'm always out there. Just reach out to me, send me a DM. I'm always happy to talk about that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Q. I appreciate everything that you shared. Thank you for having the courage to share what you did. It's appreciated. Hopefully, those of us, when we get an opportunity to listen to other speakers like we've been doing, hopefully we can glean some truth of what they've experienced and know how to apply it to our own life to make a positive change within us. Let's see. Okay, Justin, you're next. I thought that I saw a doctor in here a moment ago, but she disappeared. Okay, Justin, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, I think of what really causes someone to have a mental health illness is something very traumatic in their childhood or past relationships or friendships, that they never really been open about. If I've been open about my panic attacks and all about that. I feel like, the more men speak up about their mental health, the more easier it would be for them to actually, be open about that, and take the courage to be open about it. I know that there are like pro athletes like Simone Biles in this year's Olympics, and even Carey Price and Jonathan Drouin of the Canadians. Like, it's important for them to be open about their mental health, and also like Jonathan Drouin of the Montreal Canadiens, he missed like pretty much the whole of Stanley Cup Finals of this year, and I think it's really important for athletes to speak up about their mental health because they play at such a high level, and it's great that they be open about that because it's great for Jonathan Drouin to miss the Stanley Cup Finals because taking care of yourself and taking care of your mental health is more important than winning the Stanley Cup. And it's really means a lot that I can be open about my fear of big crowds and how they overwhelm me, and how I want to steer clear of them. Not only because of how scary they are, but also because they may trigger a panic attack for me. So that's why I just want to, you know, stay away from them at all costs. And I think that would be the best decision for myself to do.
Yeah,
That's all I got.
thank you for sharing, Justin. I appreciate it. You touched on something that I spoke on the other night, which was how did you word it? That men need to be more open and honest. And then you talked about the celebrities, and I brought up about Simone Biles the other night that we did the space with, and Chris was hosting. That because athletes like her came out and did what she did, it just helps remove the stigma of mental illness. I think that I may be wrong, but my opinion is men don't want to open up as much as a woman does because of our pride. And we think that if we open up and we become vulnerable, especially in front of other guys and women in particular, we're so vulnerable where they can become afraid that you're going to rebuke them. From a man's perspective, and what are you going to think of my masculinity? I know this because I've talked with other people that are men, and that's why some of them are uncomfortable sharing about their own personal life. But I'm grateful and encouraged for the people that are in this room, because you're opening up, you're being honest. I know that there are people who suffer from when they're little. People's parents may have gone through separation or divorce, and they pit the child or children against the other parent. That has a psychological damage that can cause mental illness, because the child can grow up feeling guilty, like it's his or her fault, when it's not. It's strictly between the parents. The parents need to learn just to tell the children, look, I love you, and what's going on between mom and I is our business and has nothing to do with you, because mom and I love you. And the mother needs to say the same thing to the others, when they have the children. But that's a different topic. But we're dealing still with the mental health issue of it. you know, one of the things that I would suggest is to maybe sit down and listen to some music that you really like. They say music calms the savage beast, and I think that there's some truth to that, depending upon the type of music that you listen to. Go ahead, GOP.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm going to double dip here. I'm going to get real and raw. When I was 5, I was molested. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know why they call it molested, because to me it's rape. But okay, let's just go from there. And I did not grow up with a warm, fuzzy mother. She was an executive for an oil company. So I had this image, this expectation. And I think it takes some time to really learn how to accept yourself and go from there. Now, I am blessed. I went through a lot of therapy. The whole thing here, and I'm still in therapy. I think I'll always be in therapy, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I think that what we need to do, and I'm so glad we're bringing this up as parents, my fear is not my child's fear. My anxiety is not my child's anxiety. I cannot project. I am not psychic. I can't go into the future. I don't want everything, all that luggage, to go on my child. And I'm very blessed. My sons are wonderful. And I'm also, if you haven't noticed, I'm very zen. But that took a lot of time to achieve. You know, just go out there and just know you can do this. You can move past it. There is help. There is hope. Just gotta look for it. You gotta grab onto it. So that's my 2 cents worth. And thank you, space. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being so courageous and sharing what transpired in your life. I do have a question. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine, because it's really nobody's business unless you want to share it. The person that molested you, did he or she face any kind of legal ramifications? I only ask that because I want to see if you got any kind of a little bit of a glimpse of a closure.
No, because I told no one. I was ashamed.
Well, you don't have to feel ashamed now. You're not guilty. The perpetrator is guilty. You didn't do anything wrong. I know that in rape cases, like in your case, a person can feel, especially as a child, and if it's somebody that's in the family that you love, it makes it very difficult for that child to speak out, especially if it was a parent or a sister or brother doing the molesting, or an uncle. Very difficult to tell your family, because then you don't know whether or not they're going to believe you. And you might have doubts that they'll believe you, or maybe they won't. So for children, depending upon how old they were, it can be very difficult for them to literally speak up. But there should be signs, because most children, when they're young, when they get molested or raped, which is actually incest if it's by a family member, and that's extremely gross, you should be able to see signs of that child acting out. The parent or whoever wasn't guilty of the crime that loved the child, there are signs. They'll start doing bad in school. They might start wetting their bed all over again because of the psychological trauma that was forced on them. They could feel like they did something wrong when they didn't. So, therapy is a good thing to do if you haven't gotten anything, and if you have insurance, and if you can afford it. Those are big ifs. I'm not asking your finances. I don't need to know. No one needs to know. That's your business. But if you do have insurance, and if you're not in therapy, and if you are and you're continuing, I think you said you're in therapy and you're continuing. I think that's great. But for anybody else out there, if you're a victim, I don't care if you've never told somebody. If you were a victim from when you were young, don't hold that in. Tell a doctor. Tell a nurse. Get help. They can help you emotionally to get over it. You can have maybe some counseling with a therapist to help you. Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time. Mental illness doesn't just disappear, though we'd like it to. It's strong, and it can be very overwhelming and cause a person to do impulse things. And they're not able to discipline themselves because the compulsion to do whatever it is that they're doing is very strong from the emotional issue that they have. But it's treatable. And others may be able to see it around you. You might be missing social cues. etc. GOP, go ahead.
I just want to say that my saving grace when I had my official breakdown at 24 after the birth of my second son was that I found an organization that does therapy on a sliding scale fee. They are out there. Look for them. If you are unaware of where they are, United Way can help you find these therapists. Now, I'm in a position where I can afford the therapy, but there were times I could not, and some of the therapists wanted like $300 an hour. And I'm like, I expect if I'm going to pay $300 an hour, I'm going to be cured after the first session, but I try to have a sense of humor about it. And that's when I come to terms with easing up on myself. Ease up on yourself. If you are feeling broken and unsure and afraid and you don't understand why, ease up. I'm here. All these folks are here. This is a wonderful room. And I will, thank you. I will receive the mic now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing some more insight. I just wanted to share something before Barissa speaks again. When a person is raped, my mother was a rape counselor, and that's where I learned a lot of things. Plus, I learned a lot of things while I did the 10 years with the different police departments that I worked at volunteering. Most victims feel very dirty, like it's their fault. Whether they're just fondling a young girl's breasts, the vagina, the buttocks, whether they're just feeling them with their hands or fingering them, it's rape. They're not even of consensual age. And they feel very dirty that they did something wrong. And they want to go take a shower to get the dirt off. That's how emotionally scarred the victims are right afterwards. And then they want to wait. If somebody's raped, they want to wait because they're afraid nobody's going to believe them, especially if you're a woman. They're afraid. There are test kits. People know that there are rape test kits out there that haven't been used. Why? Police need to do their job. I know we got police reform, and I'm not going to go there because that's a whole different subject. But these women are innocent, and we need to be able to bring these perpetrators to justice. You can't expect a child in their single digits or even double digits, like 10, 11, or 12 years old, if they get abused by a family member, that they're going to just go run with it. They're traumatized. They don't know what they're doing. That's why I said you as parents need to watch for signs. It might be a significant sign that somebody hurt them, so don't condemn them so quickly. Listen to your child. Why would your child lie to you about being molested or raped? They won't. They need to be believed. And I think growing up in the 60s and 70s, and Tanya is a little younger, but she understands. Your mentality was different. You when you're a kid, you speak when spoken to, but you had manners and you didn't disrespect your elders. But you know what? One thing I know in my family, God forbid something would have ever happened like that, my parents would believe me right away. And it's unfortunate that there are some families that won't. But please know, if you're one of those victims, you did nothing wrong, and I encourage you to get some mental health counseling. And with that, I'm going to go to Barissa. Sorry I took so long chatting.
No problem. No, it's okay. Hi everybody in the room. My name's Brisa. Thanks for listening to us and talking to us and sharing with us. This is pretty heavy space and stuff we're talking about. It's not easy conversations, but thank you for being in here with us and talking it out. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about. One thing,
shout out to Brandy. Thank you so much for sharing with us, because it takes a lot of courage to share like that. And it's now inspiring me to share about my experience with my family, which is actually different but the same nonetheless. But before I do that, um yeah, sliding scales. There's also free mental health services depending on your county of where you live. For example, in Los Angeles County, it had a free Headspace program, which is an online app for healthcare, mental health care. So if you lived in the city of LA or Los Angeles County, you could sign up for that and get that. So I recommend, no matter where you are, look into your local resources and your local social services and see what is available to you, especially on a sliding scale. Because we live in a day and age where we can even barter our services and barter our trades. So, you know, maybe somebody will take a canvas, or maybe somebody will take some web design, or maybe somebody will take whatever graphic design, some kind of skill that you have in exchange for mental health. Do that, try to make that happen. There's a lot of ways to get mental health if money is not one of the options. So it's just a matter of, like Michael said, getting over the pride issue and the stigma of asking for help. I think we live in a very capitalistic society where we need to produce, work, no matter what. And don't sleep. And if you die, oh well, at least, you know, you have all your accolades and all of your diplomas and all of your trophies on your wall, right? And that, unfortunately, is something that I realize the younger generation has stopped. And but that's one thing that I love about TikTok, is that it just shows me in real time how the younger generation thinks. And one of them is that our parents needed to provide for us so that we could survive. Therefore, they could not pursue any of their artistic goals. So they think that's the same thing for us, is that we cannot be artistic or creative. We have to just be engineers or doctors and just get a lot of money, and then we can do whatever we want after that. After we have achieved all the money, then we can get happiness. And unfortunately, that is the root of all evil, and that's where a lot of people um get choked up and forget what is actually important to them, because just making a lot of money for a lot of people doesn't still equate happiness. And that is definitely something that I have seen. Really, really happy people become successful and then become miserable. So it can all change if you don't have a good foundation, a good mental health foundation. So now into the personal side, one of my very close relatives um, was sexually abused by her paternal side of the family. And when she went to my sister about it, my sister kind of swept it under the rug and didn't say anything. And it wasn't until my niece went to my mom and said what happened to her that my mom sprung into action and actually made something happen. And unfortunately, it was too late. It had already been too many years had passed. Like, there wasn't, by the time DCFS got involved, there was nothing that they could really do to prosecute the person who did it. Um, but it did open the door for us to start the mental health and start the healing and get my sister in counseling, because obviously, what the fuck, why would my sister do that to my niece? And then why, you know, what, now we have to start with my niece and do this wraparound mental health, and all of us are on the team and trying to help her. And this happened when she was 3, and now she's 13, and let me tell you, she still has all kinds of issues to work through, even though we have had her in counseling since she was 6. So it's like, this is a process. This is a long process. And it's one of those things where it's like, you can only do so much and you can only help as much as you can. But like you said, you can lead a horse to water. You can lead a horse to EMDR therapy. You can do all of the different things that you can. But until my niece is ready to stop suffering and going through all of the crazy cyclical loop that she's going through mentally, all of the help that we give her isn't going to stick. Nothing is going to help. And that's the thing, is that we all have different ways of processing. There's a saying that misery loves company, right? And sometimes when we're suffering, we just want more people to suffer with us, to feel with us and be sad with us. And it's it's good to like hold space for people, but you cannot completely submit to that darkness. You have to raise your frequency higher and bring other people up with you into that frequency that you're in order to help them get out of that darkness of where they are. And let me tell you, easier said than done. Easier said than done, because protecting your energy is not easy, and trying to hold space for other people is not always easy. So I feel like I've said a lot, and I actually have to like step out soon from this amazing conversation that you all are having here. But this is such a great conversation and an important topic, and I encourage more people in the audience to come up and share their thoughts on mental health and mental illness and just mental health awareness, and honestly mental health acceptance. It's like we just got to accept it, that we need it, we have to have it. It's something that we should be talking about on a daily basis. Have I meditated today? Have I had gratitude today? Have I taken time to like really feel my eyes and my ears and my nose and all my senses and everything that I have that not everybody is blessed with, you know? These are important things to do on a daily basis. And I try to remember of this, especially whenever I'm feeling frustrated or aggravated or angry. I'm just like, ha ha ha, first world problems. Look at you getting all bent out of shape out of something silly. Ha 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 ha. And then I try to like just reset and come back. So with that said, thank you so much for this space.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It was great that you shared what you shared. I didn't know GOP's name. What is it? Linda, is that your name? GOP?
Brandy.
What is it?
Drink.
Is it Brandy? You're cutting in and out when you come in. You got to remember, when you turn your mic on, there's a 3-second delay. So wait 3 seconds and then make your statement. Go ahead, GOP, one more time. I see your cue.
Oh, like I said, and my experience.
Michael, mute your mic.
I grew up in the 70s, so there was no discussion on, abuse at the time. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm grateful that I was able to have some experience, strength, and hope. And I want everyone to know there is a light at this very long tunnel. And it took me a long time to get there, and I went through the bedwetting. I went through I was put in special needs classes because my grades dropped. And, long story short, at the end of the day, I wasn't stupid. I wasn't afraid. I'm actually rather normal and cool. I need everyone to know that. It took me a long time to ease up on myself. Ease up, people. Let's talk. I'm here. If you need to DM me, I'm here. Please, always think first before you react. So, that's all.
I just wanted to also interject to Barisa. She's 13 now. It happened when she was 3. Thank goodness for your mom coming in and intervening. I don't know if she's still here or not. I know she said she had to go, but it can take years for that little girl to start to recover, because she's just a teenager. The hormones are just beginning. I know it starts at 12 for women. But at least she's getting the help that she needs, and that's what's important. Q, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Michael. Wow, Barisa and Brandy. I mean, Thank you so much for sharing. It was just wonderful. There's just one thing that I wanted to add from my side. I think I forgot it last time when I spoke. I think social isolation is another huge factor, especially in the developed world, a huge cause of mental illness because as people grow older, I've seen, like, I live here in Massachusetts, I've seen a lot of older folks, they're pretty much by themselves, and maybe their spouse passed away or whatever, and then there's a lot of young people with the pandemic and everything. They are isolated by themselves, they don't have many friends, and yeah, it does lead to, like, the feeling of loneliness. And I do think that it causes a lot of mental illness, because when you go out, you listen to other people talk, you get out of your own head, and you kind of understand that how other people are, like, also facing the similar challenges. So I do think it's very important for everybody to have some sort of social circle, a support group, or just something like, uh, in terms of, like, just hanging out with other people, even if it's that. And for people who constantly suffer with mental health issues, I think it's important that, I mean, I'll talk from my own experience. You need to have a routine, like you get up at a certain time in morning. I used to stay awake all night, and lack of sleep, not eating properly, not getting exercise, all these things kind of creep up, and then you just get into a very dark and shitty place. So you've got to keep that. I mean, I know it's hard sometimes, get up, work out, do your gratitude list in the morning, but then that's the kind of ritual that keeps you going, and makes you, like, appreciate life as and your blessings, and not just look at what's not working well. So that, I'll just pause at that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughts. It's much appreciated. Again, the call the suicide hotline in the United States National Suicide Prevention Hotline again is 1-800-232-8255. Again, 1-800-232-8255 is the suicide prevention hotline here in the United States. You can also dial 911. Now, this is all up in the nest, excuse me. Listen, it is 8 o'clock. We've been going since 6:30. Tanya, I know, has to be ready for a different space for 9 o'clock. My friend Alberto is going to have a space. Oh, hi, Shanae. Good to see you, sweetheart. Now I'm going to bring her up because she's a psychologist or studying to be one. Shanae, we went over, or I went over for the past few times that I've done this room on mental illness and mental health. We've discussed about the environment. We discussed about how a person can get mental illness, and what to do, et cetera, et cetera. We went over some definitions of what schizophrenia meant and what OCD is, et cetera, a few things like that. Right now, tonight, we're talking about there were people in the room who unfortunately have been sexually abused and raped when they were younger, molested. And I had shared with them, it's not their fault, and that, a person who gets raped can feel very dirty and they want to literally take a shower, but it's not their fault. They want to get clean again. And you get clean by talking to a therapist, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. So I just invited you up to speak, Shanae, if you'd like. In the interim, does Chris or Tanya have anything to say? Well, she hopefully will come up.
No, I love this. I love sharing and being able to talk about. Yeah, I really haven't shared about my postpartum depression, and I mean, and I never thought that is considered a mental illness, but it is. It's, something traumatic happened, and everybody has a different way of coping with different things. And like I said, forgive yourself. What you've done in the past does not set who you are today.
That's right. Chris, you have any final thoughts before I go around for final thoughts before I close out the room?
Yeah, so I know, like, I for me right now, like, I actually had to go see my therapist today, and they've been giving me a really hard time, and they actually discharged me today. because they accused me of not following my medication plan, which is not true, because my before I went, I requested a refill from my doctor, and he filled that medication. And then when I went to this new therapist, we did a new medication plan, and she asked me if I like refilled that, and I said yes. And she didn't say anything, but now all of a sudden she accusing me of not following the plan because I got that refill and all that stuff, even though I haven't taken the medication and since I got it like over a month ago, because that's what we agreed on the plan. And now and so it was just really, really bad, and I didn't have a good day because of that. Because another thing is I have a lack of transportation. I don't have a car, so there's only that one place that takes my insurance in my town, and so now I don't know what I'm gonna do, and so so I just wanted to put that out there. Like a lot of people are in my situation who have a lack of transportation or facilities that accept insurance, and then the place there turned out to be not good, because they were also rescheduling my appointments all month long. They kept on rescheduling my appointments, and then one appointment I couldn't make, and I tried to reschedule it, and I called and called and called, and they never returned my calls. And they're just giving me all this like bullshit, basically, and then accusing me of lying and accusing me of not following the treatment plan when I did. And they just had like no trust in me at all. And I even said that, and she was like, "You're right, I don't trust you." And I'm like, what? Like that's the first thing you should do is trust your patients to follow the plan. And even so, she could have easily drug tested me to make sure that I didn't have that in my system, which I would have agreed to immediately because I have not taken it, you know? So I don't know. I'm a little upset about it, of course, but I'll be okay. I'll try to figure something out. I could call my father. He doesn't live near me, but I could try to call him and stuff. So, I have some. I don't really have options, but I mean, I guess I could see what he can help me with. I mean, maybe he can help me bring me or something. I don't know. He works as well, so I don't know.
Is there
So,
somebody
but
else?
people are in people like I'm not alone in this situation, and it really sucks. And then another thing is that, like, I've been trying to get disability, and I keep on getting denied. And now that I don't have a therapist to sign off on it, I can't even reapply. I can't even reapply. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through. It's understandable why you'd be frustrated and agitated because of your current situation. There's always Uber. I don't know your finances, but if you could afford Uber or a taxi, the taxi is probably much more expensive. Or maybe I don't know if there's public transportation like a bus that goes near where this place is. One of the things I was thinking of is maybe.
Yeah, I have $0.
Okay. Well, maybe you could call that place and speak to the director, and explain to him or her that number one, you don't really care for the new therapist, and that she told you to your face that she didn't trust you to stay on the plan, which offended you. I'm not trying to put words.
Yeah, I mean, she even mentioned being drug tested the last time I saw her, and I told
Michael.
her I had no
Yep.
problem with it. So it's
Right,
like,
hang on,
you
just
know,
hang on. Trying,
but
do we need to wrap
mhm.
this up now?
No. You can continue, but you need to mute your mic. We can only have one mic open because it's getting a feedback. Because we're streaming. Don't forget.
I'm sorry, you're right. Go ahead, Chris. I apologize.
No, go ahead. You continue what you were saying.
Well, what all I'm saying is that I don't know what your dad can or can't do. You're not going to know until you call him. I think that's a great thing that you're doing. It's good to reach out. Maybe a friend can give you a ride. I don't know if you have friends in the area. I don't know your relationships with your friends, whether they'd be willing to take you every now and then. But that's why I suggested if you talk to the director of the place, call and talk to whoever's in charge, and explain to them your situation. She can override the therapist and give you a different therapist because you need the therapy and you need the medication. And you can say, listen, you guys are now putting me, as far as I'm concerned, you're putting me in danger because I have nowhere else that I can go. And I have mental health issues, and you're depriving me, and this is the only place that my insurance will cover. And I feel as though, and you just explain your feelings. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't even think of that. So I really appreciate that.
Not a problem. And GOP, could you please say your name again? No, don't forget, once it's your turn, wait 3 seconds after you turn the mic on, because there's a 3-second delay.
Brandy, like the drink.
Brandy, thank you. Please continue, Brandy.
No, Chris, I'm hoping you're willing to open up and share with me. What are you diagnosed with exactly?
Major depressive disorder and general anxiety disorder with agoraphobia.
Okay. All right. Reason why the asking is I'm trying to really understand how a psychiatrist or someone in that profession would say you're not doing your medication properly and F off, because let me tell you.
I agree. I couldn't believe it either. I literally walked out of the place because they were like, oh, we'll give you a 30-day prescription. I'm like, what is that going to do? That's just 30 days, and then I'm going to be off of it and then end up in a hospital or something, like they like just didn't even care.
Yeah, let me tell you something. If I was a psychiatrist, I would expect my patients to kind of buck taking their medication, because I've been there, I've done that. But I was never kicked out of an office because of it. I'm so sorry you experienced that. Wow.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still kind of a little in shock myself, but more upset than anything, right? Really, but I appreciate it. Thank you. But I wanted to raise that I'm not the only one that's in this situation, and I want to make people aware that I'm going through this, and so are other people. I know that, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these stresses in your life that you certainly don't need. It sounds to me, just based only on what you're saying, because obviously I never talked to your counselor, but I'm just going by what you say, because there's always two sides to every story. And there's no reason for me to doubt what you're saying. So I wanted to interject that too. They sound very unprofessional doing what they did. From what you said, it doesn't make sense. They know you have some issues. The major depression, I understand that. And the anxiety, I understand that. But the last part that you were diagnosed, could you reiterate that and say what that is? Because I have no clue what the last part was.
Oh, general anxiety with agoraphobia, like a fear of like crowds, like a lot of people.
Yeah, I that I understand too. Sometimes people with what he just described, from my understanding, the fear is very real. They get you, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, they get very anxious when there's a lot of people because they don't trust the people around them, because they don't know them, and there's some insecurity there, and they get paranoid that they may get hurt, so they try to avoid and they try to isolate. Did I hit it on the head, Chris, or was I way off?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay. So now everybody has a greater understanding. Like I said, I've never.
Yeah, I invited a speaker up. Where did he go?
Go ahead, bring him.
He just pop up and put something in an S and left. Hold on. Where is he? Doge Destiny? Fly by. Oh my gosh. So funny. Let me remove that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could just remove it. Luckily I have a roof over my head and I live with my family. So, some people are in this situation and they don't have a roof over their head, or they're sleeping on a friend's couch, or they're homeless, So, I'll be okay, but I'm not really, like you know what I mean? But I don't want anybody to worry or anything like that. Like, I'm not gonna do anything stupid or anything like that. And I have food too, so and I have support. I have at least one friend that's a close friend that can support me. Unfortunately, he doesn't live around here, but that's okay.
Well, if you ever felt like you're all alone and you're lost now and your anxiety really starts to pick up on you, you may want to call 911 for a ride to the hospital if it gets that bad.
Of course I will.
Okay, because I know that if you don't have the right medication and you're off of the medication, within about a few days to a week, you can start to hallucinate, start to cry, start to talk to yourself. You need that medicine, my friend. So if that starts to happen, like I said, you call 911, the ambulance will come, they'll take you to the hospital, you go to the ER, and they'll help you. They'll bring you over to a psychiatric unit so that they can get you straightened out, and then you get released.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I don't want you to do anything to yourself. You know what I mean? And with that kind of,
I won't. I promise I won't.
all right. I'll. So you're contracting with me that you'll be fine until you can get this situation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that's fine. I accept that. I trust you. So, is there any other comment or questions from the room? Because, like I said, we've been going since 6:30. It's now just about 8:15 in the evening, Eastern Standard Time here in America. I would like to take this time to personally thank each and every person that spoke, as well as each and every person that stayed and listened, as well as those who are still ghosting. Yes, we're aware of that. Tanya, thank you. And Chris, thank you. Tanya, thank you for hosting and recording this and streaming it live for us. To the
Yeah, I'm telling you how many people listening.
okay, yeah. And to those who listened in and who watched streaming, I thank you too. I'm going to wait for the stats now from Tanya.
And when I'm done, I'll give you the link to the YouTube channel.
That would be wonderful. I appreciate that. You're such a big help. And Chris, you're always a big help too. I am going to run another one of these because it is mental health awareness. And it seems that people really enjoy to come into a safe space. Nobody's here to criticize anybody. We're here to support you. We're here to try to help you if it's beyond our help or beyond our capability, I should say. We'll help to try to find you a doctor or a therapist or get you situated somehow. You can look up in the yellow pages or white pages or use your phone and call and ask for where the nearest psychiatric clinic is so that you can get yourself some help if you're able. This is a general statement to whoever. I know South Africa has a wonderful mental health plan. I've seen it online. I've read about it. And I also want to know those who live here in Florida. I read online. I have it with me. There is a place in South Florida.
So,
Go
Michael,
ahead.
we have 91
I'm sorry. Say that again.
91 people.
Oh, that's a record for me.
Yeah, total listeners.
Wow. Thank you. Does it say how many may have ghosted?
No, this is your total listeners. I'll have a list. I have the list of all the people that were in the space, but this is counting all the people that listening from all over, not just there's desktop listeners. And you don't even need an account.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm hoping that whoever was listening that way too was able to get some things confirmed. Hopefully it was helpful to them. I appreciate them very much listening. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya Schultz. She's an excellent speaker, host, writer.
And you know what? I want to also leave with this thought. Michael, can you mute for a second? So Q, you and I should do a space about being first generation. I think it's a very important thing because now we have some new people becoming into our countries. And I feel like if we host spaces like that, talking about first generation from different all over the world, not just America, all over the world. So let's collaborate. I'd love to see and create a story about different generation from different parts of the world and their experiences.
I would absolutely love that. Let's do that.
Excellent. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you, Chris and Tanya, and all those who participated. Thank you for those who had the courage to come up and share their profound stories. Hopefully, we were able to encourage you in some way or comfort you in some way. The advice is there. Don't forget, if you wanted to take a screenshot, feel free, because the suicide prevention hotline number is in the nest. So please take a screenshot of it. If you're listening, the number here for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-232-8255. Again, the number here in the United States for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-232-8255. Thank you very much. I'm not going to do a space tomorrow, but I might do one on Sunday. I'm trying to work it out with Chris and Tanya because they're my co-hosts, and I'd be lost without them. So thank you all once again. Have a great and blessed evening. Take care. Stay well. Stay safe.
Thanks again,
Thank you,
Michael.
Michael.